Jabroni, Jabronixyz, oh, it doesn't matter, you spell jabroni.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Two Jabronis with a Wrestling Podcast. BJ Cruz here with my tag team partner, the John Moxley to my Kenny Omega, the incomparable Jeremy Loss. Jay, what is up, my dude? He's giving me a face right now. I don't know. They just finished their match, so it was fresh on my mind.
I'll take it.
Two diametrically opposed foes. I don't know.
I'll take it.
That stuck out from Mox's promo tonight. So.
John Moxley is a handsome man. I'm just gonna go out and say it. He's a very handsome man.
Renee Paquette, is that how you say her name? Very lucky lady. Very lucky lady.
Yes, yes, and he's a lucky man.
He's a lucky man as well.
They are a lucky couple.
It's a great couple. You should check out Renee's pod, by the way. It's a good listen. I learned a lot about John Moxley that I wasn't expecting to learn in the.
He loves
to ski. He used to love to ski. He used to hit the slopes. It was
him and Kenny Powers. Shout out to my new podcast.
Oh, there you go. We'll give you a little bit at the end. I'll let you plug it because it's a big deal. You get your own logo and shit. This is crazy. Again, this just furthers my narrative that at some point you are going to betray me by super kicking me through a barbershop window. I'm going to keep pushing that narrative until it happens so that I can look at everyone and say, I told you so. All right, everyone, don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you download your podcasts. And if you're one of our fantastic Apple Podcast users, please, please, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling spicy, leave a review on our Spotify, people. Hit us with that follow so you can help us climb those Spotify charts. And if you've done your Spotify Wrapped thing that they're doing with like music and podcasts, and if for some reason we're showing up on your Wrapped, that'd be amazing. Send us a screenshot. We'll put that on the good old socials there.
Yeah, share the love. Unfortunately, I listen to Apple Music, and so I don't get those little cool like year-end wrap-up things, which is kind of disappointing. But make sure that you also subscribe to us on YouTube at Two Jabronis with a Wrestling Podcast. Hit the red button, do all that good stuff. Like, comment, really help us out there. Ben puts in a lot of work to make sure that we get our beautiful faces up on YouTube. So please help us out. Also, follow us on social at Two Jabronis Pod on Twitter and on Instagram. We are doing a little bit better when it comes to posting on Instagram. So help us out. Follow us there. And you can follow me personally on Twitter at Jeremy A. Lawson. You can follow Ben at Cruise Control. That's Control with a K.
All right, everyone. We're recovering from our Thanksgiving hangover of food, I should say. But we're ready to talk some wrestling. And dear God, did some stuff happen tonight. We purposely pushed this week's episode so that we could record after Dynamite and NXT, and it was probably one of the best decisions we've ever made. Because
sometimes we get it right. So a lot of the times we get it wrong.
It's just good booking. It's good shit, as one VKM would say.
We're clairvoyant here. We were able to see into the future and realize that some massive shit was going to go down, and we waited.
Exactly.
And you know what? It paid off. Side note, my star on the top of my Christmas tree is about to fall off right now. I'm just like looking at it. It's gonna fall. This is great podcasting. I'm just telling you right now.
Let's see if we can time it for the end of the episode where we just hear a crash and then I'm gonna leave it in. I'm absolutely gonna leave that in. All right, everyone. It is now time to stick to wrestling. And for this week's Stick to Wrestling, Dynamite came with the heat this week. By golly, that was damn near a pay-per-view. It was basically a pay-per-view, not damn near.
This was better than probably the last pay-per-view that they had. Top to bottom, this is one of the better Dynamite cards they've had in a long time. And dare I say, this is probably the most important Dynamite they've ever had.
Yes.
Because of everything that happened, what this signifies going forward. I don't want to speak, like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to throw a hyperbole here and say like this is one of the more like important moments in wrestling. But the way that we're looking at this and the way things are laid out now, this is a seminal moment for, I would quote unquote like the new age of wrestling. Ever since like this is the most important moment in the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Because of what it could set up here. Spoiler alert, Kenny Omega is your new AEW World Champion, but the big news came afterwards with Don Callis being there. It looks like we are getting an Impact and AEW brand partnership here.
Some crossover, yeah.
Some cross-promoting, which, I mean, if you're watching Impact on Tuesday nights, you know that their product is just
it's very
really good right now.
Very good.
It's like it's getting close to the days of like Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, main event Mafia, like the good old days of TNA. It's getting close to that. And now they have the ability to cross promote with AEW, and you throw in NWA in this as well. Whew, this is going to be really interesting.
It could get, yeah. I mean, working backwards, right? When Don Callis, did you do this? So when he goes, or whoever's interviewing him says, you know, what happened? And he goes, you'll find out on Tuesday. I said out loud, so they're going to announce it on Dark?
I did too. Yeah. So initially I was like, okay, so they're doing a Dark plug. And then I was like, oh shit, no, Impact. And I was like, oh my God. They were dropping like subtle hints. Like they've been dropping like Motor City Machine Gun hints like every now and again. Like they've just been dropping like subtle things.
I think that those just kind of went in one ear and out the other for me, just because I was really into tonight's show as a whole, and I was just kind of trying to be in the moment and not trying to, I don't know. But when he said Impact, that's when it really hit me, and I went, oh wow, you know what I mean? But my first instinct was, if they're gonna reveal it on Dark, it's probably not that great of a reason. So just surface level, that I thought it was an interesting thing to put in our heads. But yeah, man, this is gonna be pretty massive, especially like we've seen, you know, content and talent exchanges with wrestling promotions, but not so much on like American soil on like national TV. You know what I mean? Like a lot of New Japan, a lot of Impact, and that, you know, all those make sense because they're not really eating into each other's territory. But Impact and AEW are direct competitors by every standard, right? Like they're on.
Yeah, this is 2 and 3.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, Impact has passed Ring of Honor as the third most important wrestling organization going right now. Yeah, like you said, like we've seen this in the past. Like you've seen Ring of Honor guys go to New Japan. You've seen Impact guys go to New Japan. You've seen like that kind of, and I think what this also signifies is that the much anticipated or much requested New Japan AEW partnership is probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people saw that Kenta was kind of teasing something tonight.
Yeah.
Obviously, he is the number one contender for the United States Jiminy Christmas, the New Japan US title.
Yeah. There's a lot of letters with that title.
Yeah. And John Moxley holds that title, even though he hasn't defended it in quite some time. So, I mean, there was the thought going around that maybe he'd show up and cost John, and then maybe that would signify something going on with New Japan. But that doesn't seem to be happening, and now we're getting this Impact one. So I think it's really interesting. I think there's it opens up the doors for some really interesting matches, and some like we bring back the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks. Like we start seeing some like things come about that are like, for a wrestling fan, you're like, oh my God, this would be great to see again.
A lot of doors being open, and now just like the matches. I mean, AEW already has a plethora of talent, right? Like probably almost too much, right? Like they're trying to cram a lot of them into Dark, or these battle royals that you're seeing, and you're like, oh yeah, like, you know, XYZ person is here. And now, you know, kind of with Impact, like, dude, like Chris Bay, who's friend of the show, and he's getting obviously a world title shot against Rich Swann coming up. Like there's so many people in AEW that I would love to see Chris Bay take on. There's so many people I want to see Rich Swann take on, and it's going to be pretty incredible. Like just the possibilities, right? This is literally fantasy booking coming to life, because you just never cross these promotional lines. Like in our heads, I guess we do. We're like, you know, we play these what ifs, but the fact that this can now be reality is, I don't know. I mean, I know there'll probably never be a WWE version of this where WWE is like, hey, let's do this.
Like a proper invasion angle.
Right. Yeah. But it gives me hope that maybe somewhere down the line, when someone else is running WWE that who kind of has the vision, who kind of has the same vision as like a Tony Khan, is open to this type of thing, because there's just more. It's just better for us as wrestling fans, right? I think that's the ultimate goal.
I mean, I get it. I mean, as wrestling fans, we would love to see that. I think from a business perspective, it doesn't make any sense for WWE. And this is similar to what happens in MMA.
Sure.
When you look at like UFC and like Bellator or like PFL, like people have been clamoring for like cross promotion of like, hey, let's do the best UFC fighter versus the best Bellator fighter. And like from a fan perspective, it sounds great, but from a business perspective, like it's great for Bellator. It's like a win-win, because like if you lose, you weren't supposed to beat the top UFC guy. If you win, you've just beat the UFC guy. Like you just made yourself even bigger. Like for UFC, there's really no win there. So it's like, I think it's similar for WWE, because they're such a machine that there is no win-win there.
I guess to push back a little bit though, it's just so many of these guys and girls are just pure wrestling fans, right? Like, look, Jon Moxley, there's no one who could have been more upset with WWE on his way out the door, right? But even he admits, like, he still watches from time to time or checks in on like his friends over in WWE and to see what they're doing, because he's such a wrestling junkie. He's a wrestling nerd. And there's a lot of that crossover, right? Like on Twitter, when a big event happens or there's a big pay-per-view, you'll see wrestlers like kind of subtweeting about it, whether they address it directly or not. And I just think like, yes, does it make sense for Vince and Tony Khan and, you know, like Don Callis to kind of like make it all work? Maybe not for them personally, but when you start trickling down, it just makes sense for a lot of like the wrestlers and us, right? So that's why I'm trying to push that narrative.
Like it's gonna make sense for everybody, but the people that it really needs for it to actually happen, it's not gonna make sense for. So like a Vince, like it's not gonna ever make sense for Vince to concede or do anything to make his competitors look better than his product. Same goes for Dana White in the UFC. Like it just doesn't make business sense. So
sure.
I mean, as much as I would love to see a proper invasion angle, like how badass would it be to see the Elite show up on Raw and actually make Raw a watchable product? Like that'd be awesome. But like from a business perspective, it just really doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I think for Impact and AEW, I think they're kind of like it's obvious. They're obviously like 2 and 3, but I think like the chasm between 1 and 2 is so massive that like you can go ahead and do this. Bellator does this in MMA. They do it with Rise in MMA, which is the MMA promotion in Japan. So like you can see like these middle tier companies do this because there's not a dramatic drop off, and there's no real the cost benefit there is noticeably different than for like a WWE. So
yeah, I think it would be more so for like the benefit of the industry as a whole, right? And I think that would have to be kind of like a selfless thing to do. Right. And you're right. Is Vince going to do that? Probably not. And this is me just being idealistic and wishful thinking, right? But can you imagine that if there was all that cross promotion and they kind of all in some form, not fully, not full time, like they still need their individual lanes, but like there was some form of like banding together, like to get on to like an ESPN and you know, like obviously ESPN, Bleacher Report, CBS Sports, like all these people, like they cover wrestling, but it's kind of like in this subdivision. Like you have to hover over the more section, right, to kind of get to these places. Like having this type of story happen would almost be like when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker and like that was leading Sports Center. You know what I mean? Like it's just that type of monumental moment where it could transcend just wrestling. And I'm just, again, I'm putting the idealistic hat on. You're right, it'll probably never happen, but it is super exciting that this is even happening, again, on American soil and American television, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer here, because I would love to see it. But
right.
I mean, the WWE product would desperately need like just an influx of power, like of talent here. And like, if you were able to bring a Kenny Omega against like fucking Roman Reigns, who wouldn't want to see that? I mean,
that's money. But yeah, I totally see what you're saying too, where it's like that'll never happen with like network TV shows, right? Like Seinfeld was never going to show up on Everybody Loves Raymond. That would have just been insane because of the, you know, at the end of all this, it's all about kind of who makes money. And WWE is, you're right, like they have such a huge lead right now in terms of like the revenue stream. Like why would they share that pool.
Yeah,
of money.
from a business perspective, it really doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
So that it would just be like from a fan perspective, of like, I'd fucking love to see that. Now, looking at this partnership, what this kind of opens up, like we've talked about the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks getting back together and potentially having some sort of interaction there. I would love to see the North versus the Young Bucks. I think that'd be really fun. Motor City Machine Guns as well. I think where this really opens the door and really helps, I would say Dynamite the most and AEW the most, is the potential of bringing in some of that Impact women's talent. Because Impact's women's division is probably right there behind NXT's.
It's really good.
I would even put it above Raw and SmackDown, because Raw and SmackDown are so top heavy. Like, yes you have an Asuka, yes you have
Sasha, Bailey
and a Sasha, but like below that, it's like a pretty substantial drop off.
Yeah,
Impact's women's division is just top to bottom fucking good.
It's really good.
It's great.
Yeah, they're doing the knockout tag team title tournament right now, and I mean that's just showing off more, of that women's division. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so being able to take some of that talent and also get it out in front of more eyeballs on TNT, man, I think that could work for both products. I mean, I would love to see like what they're doing with NWA women's division right now. Like, it looks like Thunder Rosa is like kind of moving into like the Dynamite or into the AEW sphere, like with feuding with Britt Baker.
Yep.
Which, I mean, give me that
fantastic.
All day. Yeah. But now I just want to see Impact talent start working their way over and seeing some AEW talent work their way over. And maybe we can get some Impact talent or some AEW talent that maybe hasn't got a lot of TV time, and they could start working on Impact and start like really kind of making a name for themselves. So I think the realm of possibilities here is really interesting. We'll see how far they actually take it too. That's another thing. Like, maybe this is just something that they do with Omega, because Omega has that relationship with Don Callis. Right. It makes a lot of sense. And maybe we're already kind of imagining this to be bigger than it is. But I think if it is what we're anticipating, man, there's a lot of really fun and interesting possibilities here.
I mean, Tony Khan is at heart, he's a diehard wrestling fan.
Right.
Right. So is he running is he a billionaire? Absolutely. But he's also just a little mark like us. So I think that's going to be, I'm hoping, very hopeful that it is more than just kind of a one-off with Kenny and his relationship. Speaking of Kenny, let's talk about his title match. He is, like you said at the top of the show, he's the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion, the first person to pin Jon Moxley. Maybe not so cleanly, but he pinned him. 1, 2, 3.
Shenanigans. We had some shenanigans.
There's some shenanigans.
What was in that mic? Because, I mean, he hit him with the soft side of the mic, and it still opened him. I mean, obviously he bladed, but like, I mean, he must have gave it to him.
That's, well, as a from some, this, we do podcasts, we both have microphones. There is no soft side of the mic. You can put a little cover on top, and that gives it see, you're hurting you're hurting your finger right now.
I mean, I damn near broke my finger.
Yeah, you bladed just now. It's weird. I mean, that was it was a solid ending. It also protected Mox, right? Like, yes, it was a big deal that he lost in the middle of the ring, but he's always going to have that what if, and you had, Kenny had to have help from the outside, and it's going to set up a potential. I mean, I think Kenny's going to have a pretty substantial run here with the title. They've literally only had 2 champions so far. So,
do you like chicken shit heel Kenny versus like cleaner Kenny?
I think it's too early to formulate that opinion fully. I would like to see more, because like I didn't have a problem with it tonight, because it made sense in how Mox was going to drop the title. Now, does it continue in the same fashion where he's just kind of running alongside Don Callis into a waiting black SUV? I hope not, and I hope that there's some evolution and he sprinkles in some cleaner in there, because that's the Kenny Omega that we all love. So I think it's too early to make the call. Did you feel some type of way about him running off like that?
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Okay.
I understand why they did it.
Yeah,
like you said, they have to protect Mox. They have to continue to make him look like $1 million, which he is. I don't know. I just like cleaner Kenny. I like Kenny
Sure.
that is the best wrestler in the world. And I mean, he shows it in the ring all the time. Tonight was no exception. Like, he was phenomenal. He was doing some shit that not a lot of people can do. It just, the chicken shit antics. I'm not a huge fan of that to begin with. Like, unless it's like the right guy, like Seth Rollins chicken shit heel is my jam.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kenny Omega is that guy for me.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I'll see where it goes. We'll see. But I like him more as the arrogant, I'm just gonna beat you in the ring because I'm better than you kind of heel, and rather than like I need to do some shenanigans to get over. Like, I loved it when he beat Sonny Kiss in like 30 seconds,
Right.
and he was like, "This is nothing to me." Like, that was the good shit to me.
Yeah.
With his character, this one, I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, that's a fair assessment, and I guess we've just seen less of this version of Kenny, to kind of formulate that opinion. But, I think that, again, the more important thing is that now he's going to be, I think it'll be more real once we see him on Impact, right? Like, when we see him on that, and by the way, Impact ratings on Tuesday are going to be bonkers. It's going to be.
I think a lot of people are going to be spending a lot of time figuring out how do they watch Impact.
Oh yeah, on DirecTV, you just got to keep pressing down. It's like in the 300s. I have it DVR'd, so like I don't worry about missing it. But for everyone who's going to be rushing to find it, it's on AXS. AXS. I don't know how to pronounce that, but
it's much better than when it was on like Pop, and then it was on Destination America.
It's been on a lot of channels. It's
yeah.
It's been tough to find at times, which is why you should just DVR it, because then you'll always have it.
It was on Twitch for a minute too.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
it ran a little. It was like dark. It was like dark.
They went down to the bottom, and now they're starting to rise back up. So it's good to see. Let's shift gears and talk about the other major reveal that happened on Impact. Impact is on the mind. On Dynamite.
Don Callis' job is working. He did it. He got you thinking about Impact.
They've done it.
Yeah.
And that is former Impact or TNA star, former WCW legend Sting showed up on Dynamite.
WWE Hall of Famer as well. He also signed a multi-year deal. Not just showed up.
The man is 61 years old, and he's doing a multi-year deal.
Let's dissect this from the beginning. So when the lights go out, did you assume Sting?
No. So when the lights go out and they do like the winter preview, I thought it was Glacier.
Oh, sweet. God help you.
I actually got pumped up.
You sir are in a dark place.
I was like, Glacier, because I thought it was a rib. I was like, oh shit, like
God.
Taz is doing like a rib, and
you went from Glacier to Sting. No wonder you popped.
And then I saw also the music was random.
It was random. I watched it back though. There's like a faint hint of the bird noise in the beginning. Like that's the Sting signifier, right? Where you hear the crow a little bit. But so I watched it back because I was like, how? Because the pop that he got was crazy, first of all. But then, there's like it was a hint of a crow. Wasn't full crow. Wasn't the full loud crow where you're like, oh, that's Sting. So I could see why it didn't register with me at first. I know it didn't register with you. So, there's currently that meme right now going on Twitter where it's like the picture of Sting, who's past his prime. I'm just going to put it nicely.
Just a little bit.
And next to our other athletes who switched teams who were also past their prime, we chimed in. We put a little Shaq on the Celtics. And
my favorite one is somebody put him next to Nate Robinson.
Oh, too soon. That's Nate. Let Nate recover in peace. My God. So I understood why he came back. I'm confused about what he's going to do though, right? Like, is he? By the shot of him and Darby Allin was sick. Like just that close up where he's like checking him out.
Father and son, or
right?
Like grandfather and son, or grandfather and grandson. Like that's what it was. It was a little weird. Like, and this is something that I've kind of had. Like, this is a nitpick issue that I've had with AEW. Is like when they have these massive reveals, they almost feel like they don't know what to do with him. So like you have this one where he just comes out and walks around the ring.
Right.
And doesn't do anything. Like if you go back to like when FTR debuted, it seemed like they attacked the wrong team.
Yeah.
And that seemed a little off. Like this one, it was great, but then it felt like a letdown at the very end because it just felt like he didn't do anything. Like, what is he coming out here for? Like, is he coming out just to show up, or is he coming out to send a message? Like, if so, what's the message? Because he didn't do anything. So that was a little, is he going after the TNT title? That'd be interesting.
Right. Going straight for the secondary title. So I guess this is a better time than ever to unpack the multi-year deal. Like you said, he's 61. And from my understanding, when he had his last match in WWE against Seth for the title and he lost, I heard, or I think all of us read, that his back was just completely shot. Right? Completely,
because if you remember
shot.
Watching that match, he couldn't finish.
Right. And it was tough to watch. It was a bummer to watch because he, to see him finally in WWE, doing his thing, being Sting was awesome. And then to kind of watch him go out like that was just kind of put a damper on the whole thing. So I'm just kind of wondering what they're doing because I don't think it makes sense for him to have a world title run at all at this stage, right? Like there's just too many people in line for that. And Kenny just got the title. So is it this? Is it to potentially mentor someone like a Darby Allin, right? And just kind of sharpen that character.
I guess that would make sense. Also, I just realized that ESPN tweeted that out. So that is a massive moment for AEW.
Well, there you go.
They were able to get on to the biggest sports network. So, that mission accomplished, if you will.
Yeah.
It's just, where do you go from here? Like you said, like I like the idea of him mentoring Darby Allin, but then they've also painted Darby Allin as this like recluse. Like, why would he need a mentor?
Right.
He's already the champion too. Do you potentially put him together with Darby and Cody, and maybe you do the FTW crew versus Cody and his crew, and you have Sting go against Taz, so you have old guy versus old guy?
But can Taz even go anymore? I mean, I know he slapped the Taz mission on Cody last week, but I don't know. I'm concerned. I'm just a little concerned for Sting's health, I guess, just because the last time we saw him in the ring, it didn't go so well.
And this bugs me that I'm like, my mind is jumping here, but like, also he's working for a company that has shown that they are not the greatest at taking care of talent,
protecting them, from themselves. It's like protecting them from themselves, right?
Right.
And like they take all the measures, but they still haven't figured out 100% how to pull people away from. Because look, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. Like, to come back at 61, to sign a multi-year deal, some of these guys and girls just can't get away from wrestling. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he comes from that era where it's just tough to get that out of your system. A lot of the guys and girls now are very smartly, I should say, like preparing for life after wrestling, right? Like Xavier Woods has up, down, down, and he's doing all his video game stuff because he knows he can't wrestle forever. And when he's done wrestling, he will be done, and he'll do his video game thing because that is more sustainable. And I don't know if, Sting's in that group where it's like, it's not just Sting, right? Like the Ric Flairs of the world.
But the Ric Flairs of the world aren't coming back to wrestle. Like Sting is coming back to wrestle at 61.
I mean, Flair was still wrestling in his 60s, right? Like he didn't have his last match until he was in his mid 60s, I think. Like his last match with Shawn wasn't.
But like he's hanging around now more as just like a caricature of his former self.
Sure. But I mean, I think my point being, it's with some of these guys, it's just really, really tough to get out of your system. It's like once you know it, it's like a safety blanket. Right? Like there's something, it's seemingly something addicting about the travel and, the pops that you get. Like, I think I was listening to Austin talk about it, or was it Rock, where they're like, those pops that you get when you come out, like you just don't get that in regular life.
I'm sure it's like a drug.
Right.
Like I'm sure that's like
Like
the feeling that you get is like a high. And
people
so like,
just screaming their heads off, like when you just walk into a room, like you just don't get that shopping, right? Like
I mean, I do.
Well, you do because you're always stealing things, but it's but and like I totally understand that, but it kind of bums me out too because you just want, like we have these people like Sting, we hold them in such high regard because of everything they've done in their careers, and now there's just like this new class of wrestlers that we are all watching, and they know how to protect themselves, and like they're in great physical shape, mental shape, everything else. So I just hope he's coming back for, not to sound all reality TV here, but all the right reasons. And he protects himself within this multi-year deal where he can just kind of get in, get what he needs, and kind of, you know, hopefully have some sort of peace at the end of this run here.
Right. And one last thing before we have to pay some bills, like, is this even like, I mean, having Sting is ultimately going to benefit them financially because he is a legend. He is one of those guys that you can kind of just automatically go to. But just thinking about it, like, is it really necessary for AEW to have him? They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent that doesn't get a lot of TV time because they only have 2 hours on network television. Yes, they have Dark, but who the fuck watches Dark every week? Who wants to watch 18 matches on YouTube?
Well,
is this really necessary for them to do it? Like, couldn't they have potentially utilized this spot with a younger talent?
I mean, I think to answer your question is just to say what you said earlier. ESPN tweeted it out.
True.
Right? Like, that is the reason why you do it. Because, look, WWE can flick the Brock Lesnar light, Batman light, whenever they want. And, you know, whether he is on ESPN or not, like, if he does something, there's potential for him to be on ESPN because of, or they can even run it down the chain a little bit. And down the chain is I mean that with no disrespect here, but it's like The Undertaker, right? Like The Undertaker's been there on ESPN a bunch as well. So there's WWE kind of has that cachet where they can pull that card and all the sports outlets will come. AEW hasn't had that moment quite yet. Like, yes, when they came onto the scene, it was a big deal for people like you and me and people who love wrestling. But did that even make ESPN news? I don't think so, right? And so I think Sting brings them some sort of credibility because, look, even if you haven't watched wrestling, there's a good chance you watch sports of some kind. You follow ESPN, and if you see that, you'll be like, "Oh, Sting is back." And I mean, that's the entire reason that you do it.
Yeah, it gives them that opportunity to pop a number in a random month of the year rather than having to rely on some crazy storyline.
They're going to win the ratings war this week, by the way. They're going to crush NXT.
I would love to see what the spike was before and after.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be really interesting to see how big of a number they popped. Also, it was really cool to hear Tony Schiavone call Sting again.
My guy almost popped a vocal cord. It sounded like he sounded like he was going through puberty again. It was wild.
He had a couple moments that I really liked tonight. There was the moment after the Kenny Omega match where he just yelled bullshit with no other context. He's like bullshit, and I was like, it sent me. I was so
that was good. He was on it tonight. I think he was feeling the Sting vibes. You know?
Yeah, it was a really good night of Dynamite. I'm interested to see how this carries forward. And I mean, obviously with the Impact partnership, I mean, the opportunities are endless. I mean, even Jordan Grace is already on Twitter tonight, like going through her like bucket list of Impact and AEW crossovers. So there's a lot of possibilities here, and AEW really kind of hit a home run tonight. So let's pay some bills. And then we'll get into WarGames.
There we go.
And we'll say WarGames 1,000 times.
Like William Regal. Regal. Go ahead, pay these bills.
Let's take a minute to hear from our friends over at BetOnline. Football is back in full swing. You might not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get on every possible chance to win this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than anywhere else. You can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on wins, division, and championship futures all day, every day. Head to BetOnline today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Don't forget to use promo code BlueWire at betonline.ag. That's BlueWire, all one word. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
And before we get to War Games, let's take another break to hear from our friends over at Indeed. 2020 has already reshaped how we work, and it's almost over. Businesses across the globe are challenged to be their most efficient, which means every hire is critical. Indeed is here to help. Indeed is the #1 job site in the world with more total visits than any other job site. Indeed helps you find quality candidates quickly, so you can focus on hiring the person you need to keep your business going. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need. You can pause your account at any time, and there are no long-term contracts. And now, Indeed's new way of matching you with candidates instantly delivers a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria that you can contact the moment you sponsor a job, making Indeed the only job site that can move as fast as you do. 73% of online job seekers in the U.S. are visiting Indeed each month, according to ComScore. So it's clear Indeed can help you get the quality hire you need. That's why more than 3 million businesses worldwide use Indeed for hiring. Right now, Indeed is offering our listeners a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try Indeed out now with a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/BlueWire. This is their best offer available anywhere. Go right now to Indeed.com/BlueWire. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply. It's already December. My God. So get to Indeed.
It's crazy.
Hurry up. All right, let's.
All right, so we got to get into War Games.
War
Did I say it
Games. War Games.
Yeah, Yours is much better.
Yeah,
I've been practicing. So I practice my British accent every time I watch Great British Bake Off, and my wife absolutely hates it. I've been trying.
Yeah,
War Games.
I just summon a random Harry Potter character, and that's how I that's how I figure it out. But yeah, War Games is War Games. It's gonna be hard to stop at this point. So
let's get into the War Games match.
Let's run down the card before we lose listeners. So what we got? we got a pretty solid card coming up.
Yeah. So I'll work from bottom up. So I'm hoping this is the correct card because I thought this match happened tonight, but I could be wrong. We have Timothy Thatcher versus Tommaso Ciampa. We have a strap match between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. We have the North American triple threat match between Leon Ruff, Damian Priest, and Johnny Gargano. And then we have our first War Games.
War Games.
The female match between Team Candice, which is Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Toni Storm versus Team Shotzi, Ember Moon, Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, and Shotzi Blackheart. And then we have our male War Games.
War Games.
I feel like I'm getting worse and you're getting better.
I'm just. This is how this is how our match would be. If we have a one-on-one, I would just get stronger as the match progresses, and you would wilt under the pressure.
You go full John Cena on it. So we have Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. Do they have a name?
I don't think so.
Is it like For the Brand? Is that like their gimmick name now?
I don't
know
think
that's like Pat McAfee's thing, but is that their stable name?
I don't think they have an official name. By the way, it was really funny tonight. I saw like a couple NFL writers retweeting Pat McAfee's appearance at NXT. Like they had just realized this man has been on professional wrestling. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, this is a pretty solid card up and down. How do you want to attack it? Do you want to start?
Let's just start with Tommaso versus Timothy Thatcher, which is going to be a brutal slugfest.
Yeah,
that I cannot wait to watch.
Yeah,
I think that you have to put Timothy Thatcher over here. I know that they were high on him for a little while. He obviously beat Riddle in Riddle's last match. He had his moment. And Ciampa is Ciampa. He's always going to be around. I feel like Ciampa and Gargano are in the same space here. Like, just utilize them to put talent over. because they're NXT legends. They're always going to be there. Like
Right.
just utilize them to put other people over. So I think you put Thatcher over and you start transitioning him towards a push towards something larger, whether it's the North American or whether it's the NXT title. Just start transitioning him away from mid-card irrelevancy. Like let's bump him up a little bit here.
Yeah, I think that's what this is for. I mean, it is kind of a refreshing matchup for a pay-per-view. And again, Thatcher's been, since he got called in for kind of emergency duty, right? He had to fill in for Pete Dunne to be Riddle's tag partner, ultimately cost him the tag titles. But he's been putting in some really, really solid work. And he's kind of one of those, I feel like he's one of those under the radar guys that's on the radar, if that makes sense. It's just underrated. So it's dope to see him finally getting his shine. And I mean, Tommaso's a big opponent, right? That's a pretty monstrous opponent for him.
I mean, he's not, I don't want to like shit on him, but he's not the same as he was two and a half years ago, but he's still one of the biggest stars that you can go against in NXT. So I think this is a big moment for him. And then we transition to the strap match between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. Again, what Cameron Grimes has been doing is great. I think he's a really fun character, and they seem to be really into Dexter Lumis, even though the fact that his skin still looks like he needs to put some aloe vera on.
Is it just me, or does every Dexter Lumis match have to have some sort of stipulation?
I
get it's kind of his character a little bit, but what does a strap match have to do with being a weirdo? I'm still trying to put two and two together with that.
You can't run away from the weirdness, so you were there.
Isn't this his second strap match this year? He had another strap match. Wasn't it with Gargano?
Possibly. He loves the strap.
That's going to be his thing. He's into like weird.
He just has a shirt that says, I love the strap.
Yeah, I love the strap.
I mean, to be honest, this is a toss-up for me. I think you can't do wrong with either one of them going over. I think what Cameron Grimes does gives you something slightly different.
Yeah.
You can have that comedic element. But it seems like they're really into Dexter Lumis.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, I guess we go that route.
I'll go Dexter.
I wouldn't be mad at either one because, like I said, you can't really go wrong with either one of them. Cameron Grimes definitely looks like he needs to shower, but
just attacking these two dudes and their appearance, just unwarranted shots.
Sorry.
It's wild.
I'm in a mood tonight.
It's just wild.
Let's
now.
move on to North American. I think this is when the Leon Ruff title run comes to an end.
It was a nice story though. It was a nice surprise.
I'm enjoying it. Also, shout out, he got engaged recently too.
I think I saw that on the gram. Was that on the gram?
It was on the gram.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. He's just living his best life these last few weeks. But I think now you have to put it back on Damian Priest. You
Definitely
have to put it back on the guy who you are kind of anointing as like the next star within your brand.
Yep.
So also it's, and like I said, Johnny Gargano is there to put both of them over. Like they need to continue they can continue this storyline. You can have Damian Priest be your foil, your heel going forward, and you can have Leon Ruff there. It'd be interesting to see like what happens with these Scream guys, because they've been teasing this thing for a while.
Sure.
Who it ends up being, if they end up ever revealing it, that'd be interesting. So we'll see if that kind of comes about. But I think it makes a lot of sense for them to put it on Damian Priest, allow him to be the guy that you've kind of anointed him to be. And you can continue to play around with the Leon Ruff storyline. It's fine. But he doesn't need the title anymore.
I'm with it. Damian, give him back the title. It's his
I want to see him in just have him celebrate in the jacuzzi again with two beautiful women.
Yeah. That's the Damian Priest. That's the Damian Priest I like.
All right, let's get into WarGames.
WarGames.
I feel like I hit that one.
That was good. That was pretty good.
I felt that one felt good. All right. So we have the heels, Team Candice versus Team Shotzi, the faces. It's really interesting. And we were talking about this beforehand, that it's interesting that it's Team Shotzi and not Team Io.
Right. And she joined last.
Yeah.
Obviously Shotzi and Candice were first to be thrown into this, But it is. I don't know. Is that going to build some animosity between Io and Shotzi? Because
that's what I'm thinking. I think we get. I know we just had a turn with Tony turning heel, which I mean we could all see coming from when she returned.
right.
But I mean, they need to do something. They need to get Shotzi into. I mean, she's been in a high level feud for a while here, and she's been in the main event picture. But man, if they turn her on Io and we get that feud for a little while, give it to me. Like I think that'd be a really fun way to kind of spice this match up a little bit, because right now it's pretty cut and dry. Like we get a heel,
right,
and like the only way that I can see this coming on to an end is Io. If they want to play it down the line, is Io is the last person remaining. But I would love to see maybe Shotzi, Io, and Candice as the last or the final remaining ones, or maybe even Tony, and Shotzi turns. I think that'd be great to see.
I like that. Oh, that's a good fantasy booking by you.
I feel like whenever we fantasy book, I always throw in a turn.
Yeah, well, that's just you. You're always begging for.
I just want
for a turn.
I want chaos. I want to see it, and I think Shotzi as a heel would be pretty cool.
WarGames, yeah.
WarGames.
That's I like. I do think I think Shotzi's team is going to come out with the win, but I do think there's going to be some sort of turn.
I mean, last year
I'm with you.
The Dakota Kai turn last year.
Oh, that was fantastic.
If it wasn't for KO and then the final spot in the men's WarGames match, that would have been the moment.
Yeah, that was really good.
I mean, KO coming out and then the finisher was just hard to top. But Dakota turning on Tegan was, I mean, it's also set up Dakota to be like just on a hot streak lately.
Yep.
But I think those are just really like great moments, and NXT just they need one of those moments, you know?
Yeah.
They are, especially with what AEW is doing, like they just need a moment to really spark interest again. So let's have a Shotzi turn. Let's do it. And let's move on to our final WarGames. That one, I felt like
you have asked that one. That was we could tell you were acting.
We have Undisputed Era versus For the Brand.
Pat McAfee and the other guys.
Yeah.
The other three dudes.
I actually think Pat McAfee's team wins here.
Wow. Interesting.
I feel like the vignette that they played for the Undisputed Era is teasing that they're leaving, that they're done.
Interesting. I mean, in their defense,
we've been talking about this for months.
Right. In their defense, we've been pushing Undisputed Era seemingly to Raw or SmackDown. I don't know, almost damn near every week, I feel like, because, I mean, we want it to happen so bad. But, I mean, typically when this stuff happens, when people do kind of depart NXT, they do kind of leave on their back, right? Aside from like a Keith Lee or something like that, who kind of leaves kind of going up. So I could see that. I mean, the win would do more for Pat McAfee's continued involvement in WWE, who kind of gives them that mainstream presence a little bit. And it would do wonders for Pete Dunne and Lorcan and oh my God, I was forgetting his freaking name.
Danny Burch.
Danny Burch.
Put them over big time. And also this would give Pat McAfee credibility to potentially wrestle Finn for the title, because I know that they were teasing that beforehand.
Which is wild to think about.
It is wild to think about it, but like he was so good in his Cole match. I think that's what kind of set this up. Is like I think they were all kind of blown away by his match with Cole.
Sure.
Granted, Cole carried him.
Yeah,
He did
but
business.
Finn could do the same, right?
Finn could definitely
easily
do the same. So like I think this is just an opportunity. Like I think Pat gets the pin, and then they move on to him challenging Finn for the title.
You're right,
and
maybe they were teasing that. You're right.
Maybe Undisputed doesn't leave entirely. Maybe they move Cole out of here and they just slide Finn into that role, and Roddy and O'Reilly and Fish are there to back up Finn, so he's not getting pummeled on by Pete and his cronies. I don't know. I think there's some interesting ways they can go here. I just think it's vital for them to either move Cole to Raw or SmackDown because they need it, or move the entire Undisputed Era because, I mean, Raw is borderline unwatchable right now, and SmackDown is getting there. So they need to figure out something here.
Oh, man.
I mean, could you imagine if SmackDown didn't have Roman Reigns?
Yeah, like Roman's is so good right now that he's kind of covering up for a lot of the weak spots on SmackDown. And Raw, I'm just the reason why I'm kind of thinking through here is because I'm trying to figure out where I would rather see Cole at this point. Right? Would I rather see him versus Roman or him versus Drew, with him and Drew having that history of Cole's debut at TakeOver? So,
I mean, it would be that'd be. I think it makes a ton of sense for him to be on Raw. For them to be on Raw, I think also Raw opens up the possibility of them doing a program with the Hurt Business.
Oh, that's fair. That's a good point.
And then you could also do a program with Retribution. Like you could just
that's how you save Retribution is just put him in a feud against Undisputed Era.
I mean, if you have Retribution come out and then you just have UE just come out and just fucking curb stomp them all, I'd be like, I'm good. That's what I needed. You know, like
that's how Retribution ends.
I mean, Mia Yim lost on the other night, and I'm like, what are we doing?
She also lost her mask. Like, you think
what
Keith,
are we doing?
You think
here?
Keith Lee was back there, like walking by a monitor and being like, "Oh, that's where my significant other is."
I'm at a loss as to what the fuck they are doing with Retribution. Like,
I don't think it's at this point. The sad thing is, I don't think it's answerable. You know what I mean? Like, we've been asking this question over and over again since they debuted. And like in the beginning, you're like, all right, let it play out. At least I know that's what I was doing. And you were waving the caution flag early. You're like, hey, this sucks. Hey, dude, you gotta. And I was like, well, look, let's let it play out. And now here we are. Maybe Retribution should crash WarGames.
Surprise.
That would definitely save Retribution. No, I'm with you though. I'm ready for Undisputed Era to move on because I've been ready for it for months, and now I think it would just make sense for them to start the new year on a new show. And
yeah, let's just do it. I mean, give me fucking Undisputed Era versus Hurt Business, even though the Hurt Business is in a weird spot with Cedric Alexander right now, which I thought was pretty funny. Like, I thought it was great how he was like walking up the ramp thinking he was tough shit. And like, you can see MVP just going like, what the fuck in the background.
Yeah. No.
I think it's crazy how like and I think a large part of this goes to MVP, like just the polar opposites of what's happening with the Hurt Business versus what happened with Retribution. Like, Hurt Business is just fucking on one. I mean, consistently.
It's crazy too because MVP is the big reason that the Hurt Business works now. Right? Like, he was pushing it hard. He was, the leader of it. And, to Ali's credit, he's trying. He's trying his heart out to make it work.
But he has a fucking guy named Slapjack behind him who looks like a goddamn idiot.
Right. Ali also had to, he started off with a little bit, he started late in the race, right? Like he came in after Slapjack and T-Bar and Mace and what's her name? Reckoning, like once they were established, where you're like, oh God, those are their names. And then Ali came in. I think if they reversed it, where they all kind of came out together, at least it would have been salvageable because you're like, oh, Ali is he's like a reputable, great superstar. Like, I can get behind this. But he just kind of had he started behind the 8-ball a little bit, unfortunately. And as always, talking about groups always leads us to talking about Retribution. Those sneaky bastards. All right.
I mean, and they have fire merch. Like, and they have their logo is
great
dope.
Merch. I think I texted you this. I was like, I kind of like the shirt, but I'm not gonna buy it.
I swear to God, if I
suck.
see somebody in the streets wearing a Retribution shirt, we're throwing hands.
Yeah, because you're like yeah. And he's also he's probably also wearing a mask. You're like, well, no, and not like a good mask, but like a mask, like a Bane mask.
Like, you could see their face.
Yeah, like a non-mask, like an S&M mask, basically. It's
like when the Incredibles put on their mask, and you're like, you can totally tell that it's still
like,
them.
That's Mr. Incredible. The guy who does my taxes. So, all right, we're looking forward to WarGames. We might pod after, depending. We might have to get this out of our system because if we keep saying WarGames with a British accent, I'm pretty sure our significant others are going
WarGames.
They're going to.
My wife just gave me a look.
They're going to slap the shit out of us, and it's going to be kind of hilarious. All right, everyone. Before we go, Jay, I wanted to throw it to you to plug the new pod. You've got an additional pod, not a new pod, I should say. You have an additional pod that you're working on. Why don't you tell us about it? Yeah, so
we started recording last night. I'm working with the crew over at Big Screen Sports, which is a movie podcast, a sports movie podcast here on Blue Wire. And we are doing a rewatch of Eastbound and Down. We're going episode by episode. So we started with episode 1 which I called numerous times in the episode one of the greatest pilots on television of all time.
Wow.
And I also heard that you have never watched this show.
It's on my list. I can't believe Kyle aired me out like that.
So this is going to be the reason why I super kick you through a window.
Yeah, it's because of this.
Yeah, the show was incredible. If you haven't watched Eastbound and Down, please go and watch it on HBO Max.
I did sit next to Danny McBride at dinner one time, and I didn't have.
You told me the story. Yeah,
I didn't have the courage to say anything to him, and I regret it every day. He's a funny dude.
This is a fun podcast. It's going to be airing. We're going to be releasing it every Monday, starting next Monday, the 8th.
There we go.
So look out for it on your podcast feeds. Again, it's Big Screen Sports. We are doing Eastbound and Down. So really, really looking forward to it. For you all to listen to it. It's a great show. I had a lot of fun.
And I want my flowers at this moment because I set this up. Kyle said, "Do you know anyone who watches this show?" And I texted you and I was like, "Hey, do you watch Eastbound and Down?" And you're like, "Yeah, I love that show." I messaged you back. He's like, "I got you. I got you somebody." So it's going to be in all seriousness. This might be what gets me to start watching the show. I'll start watching the show. I'll watch it alongside the podcast. So see, I'll have some. I'll watch the episode. I'll have some analysis from two people who I enjoy listening to, and it'll be good. So it's good that I didn't watch the show initially, and I'll be able to do that now.
And it's a lot of fun for me because I watched the show when it came out. I've watched it like a couple years ago, and then when this opportunity came about, I was like, okay, I get to rewatch it again. And rewatching the pilot, I was dying laughing like it was the first time I watched the show. It's super awkward because the show has a lot of cringe moments, but it's just like it's hilarious to me. It's aged super well, and Kenny Powers is just one of those guys that you love to hate. And we also got into like how would Kenny Powers work as a wrestler, and I was like, 100%. Kenny Powers would be the perfect like chicken shit heel.
Yeah. The Kenny Omega of his time, you could say.
Yeah. So, be on the lookout for Big Screen Sports, Eastbound and Down, and on your podcast feeds every Monday. So
there you go. Yeah. Just make sure you plug our pod every time you do the show, or I'll call you out. How about that? That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that.
That's fair.
All right, everyone. It's been an incredible week of wrestling. We've got some other stuff that we're working on that we're going to. We're going to debut it soon. We've been working on some stuff behind the scenes. We'll talk about it soon. In the meantime, enjoy WarGames on Sunday.
WarGames.
And, if you can, stay home. If you can't, wear a mask. Wash your hands. Stop touching your face. I know I touched my face a couple times just now, but I washed my hands before I did this pod, so I think I'm okay, hopefully. And just always and forever, Black Lives Matter. All right, everyone, we will talk to you soon. Peace.
Rest in peace, Pat Patterson.